You're in the Detroit Den with Steve and Will.
Another one we got to add to the beef list. Another guy we got to add to the catch hands on site list.
What you got?
Monty Williams turning us down. We come to you to break bread and to give you a hefty sum of money that we don't know exactly how much it was, and you smack us in the face and say no.
Yeah, the numbers haven't been released, but they said it was a bag,
a large amount.
So, I mean, people were tweeting about him coming, man, and maybe he was, a popular choice for us. And
ever since he got fired from the Suns, that was kind of the name that was kind of floated around with the Detroit Pistons. And hey, let's go after him. And apparently we did. Apparently there was an offer. I didn't even know we were doing an interview. Did you?
No, I didn't know we were doing an interview, and I don't even know that we did an interview. I think it was just based off his pedigree. They threw something out there.
Just no interview needed. Just hey, man, here's the deal. He said flat out no.
But here's the thing: why would you? The dude's getting paid for sitting at home for the next 3 years, so he doesn't have to rush into a coaching job. So at a minimum, take a year off, get that money, relax a little bit, and then see what's out there, because the Pistons are going to be a bit of a project. So
do you think there's going to be a better option next year? I'm being a little too much of a homer here, but I think the Pistons is if I'm looking at it as like, it's not a destination job like Miami or LA or New York, but when I look at the roster, I mean, I see a lot of potential. I don't know why a coach wouldn't be interested in at least that aspect of it.
Do you see championship potential?
I think if you have a coach who's got the patience and a GM who gets on board and can make some good moves, I mean, yeah, anybody can win a championship. But I mean, we're not knocking on the door or anything. Don't get me wrong.
Do you see championship potential in the next 2 seasons?
If you would have said 3, I'd say yes.
Well, I think that's really the bottom line. Like he's coming from a contender, and I don't know that he wants to rebuild something. Or maybe he will next year. Who knows? But if I'm him, I'm looking for a job with a contender. Just like whoever takes over for him will be adopting a contender. I think that's more of what he'll be looking to adopt. Not that I feel like we can't get there, but I think it's a few years away still.
I think, you talk about the Lions, and I'm just going to compare how you go through roster. I'm going to look at Phoenix's roster real quick. You had the corpse of Chris Paul, who is 135 years old.
Got to count his leadership.
Not dependable. I mean, yeah, great leader. I mean, I don't need you clapping on the sidelines in playoffs. I need you on the field or on the court. And then you got the body of DeAndre Ayton, who didn't want anything to do with guarding Jokic in the conference finals.
I get it, but he's still a solid player. I take him over James Wiseman.
Would you take him over Duren?
Hell no, I wouldn't.
All right, then. Then now we're talking. So when I look at the Pistons roster and I see Cade Cunningham, Ivy, Duren, Wiseman, Bagley, and whoever I pick at 5, I mean, there's potential. I'm not saying we're knocking on the door. Championship.
Time out. Which one of those guards are you taking over Booker or KD?
I'm not I respect KD's scoring ability. I really do, but I don't think he's an all-around locker room guy. I think, he's bouncing around the league a little bit too much to my personal liking, but don't get me wrong. He's a top 4 or 5 scorer in the league. Booker, I mean, he's Devin Booker. He's a nasty dog. And I've said in a past show that I want the Pistons to, see if he's interested in coming to Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, he's from Michigan. If it could happen, that would be cool. But I don't think you let Devin Booker out of your line of sight, let alone go to another team.
Probably not. I'm just saying. I think this team is a little bit more appealing than, maybe in my opinion. I think they're a more appealing job than a couple other jobs that are out there right now. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that, man. But when you're Monty Williams, I just don't see you coming to Detroit. It just wasn't a good fit.
Good teams don't fire coaches too often unless you're Milwaukee. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, man. But I think it was just time. Those guys, it ran its course.
So there it is. Monty turned down the Pistons. Detroit made a quote-unquote big money offer to Williams that he appears to have declined.
Yep.
There it is. You can go to Bleacher Report and read the full article. We don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, it's got the big money on there. Money doesn't talk anymore, I guess, if you're in Detroit.
It is. There's always a number, but he must not have made it there.
I mean, if Detroit wants to hire me as a coach, let me know right now. We can cancel my overtime for this weekend. I'll come do a little coaching. But while we're on the topic, you got anything else?
Nope, that's it, man. I'm done with Monty. He's not in Detroit. You know how I feel about these guys when they leave or when they don't come.
Dead
to us.
Dead to me. So we're going to stick on the topic of coaches. And this is a coach that I don't think anyone's really talking about. There was some rumors a few weeks ago, but nothing's really came of it. And that's of, I don't know if it's Miss or Mrs. Becky Hammon.
Man, I am pumped to talk about some Becky Hammon. And I think it is a absolute sin that she's not getting talked about for this job, man. The three guys that we have been talking about, Charles Lee, Kevin Ollie, right, and Gerard Collins, she's got a resume that exceeds all three of those guys. None of those guys have been head coaches. Let's start there when we're talking about.
To be fair, neither has she at the NBA level, other than like one game where Popovich was ejected. Well, so to be fair.
To be fair, she just led the WNBA first year head coach,
rookie head coach to win a WNBA finals,
to win the finals, man. And she served for almost a decade under Greg Popovich. So I think her pedigree, when you're talking about Greg Popovich being potentially one of the greatest coaches ever to coach, in the NBA, he'll definitely be a instant Hall of Famer if he ever decides to retire. He just got Victor Wembanyama, so he'll probably be around till he croaks. But it's I just think it's a sin, man, that she's not getting an interview. And she had a quote. I don't know when she said the quote, but I happened to read a quote by her that said, "If my name was Brian, I believe that I probably would have been hired and fired multiple times in the NBA already." And
agreed.
I think she's dead on, man.
I personally don't give two shits if she's a woman. I don't care if she's black, white, Latino, Asian, trans, a man. I don't care. Win me some basketball games. That's what matters. So let me ask you this.
Talk to me.
If you wanted to learn how to be a Jedi, who would you go see?
I would go see the Jedi Master.
Yoda. Bingo. If you wanted to teach basketball, who would you go see?
I would go see Greg Popovich.
Or Coach K. I'll throw Coach K into the same realm.
We're talking about NBA.
NBA, Greg Popovich. So why she spent 8 years there and hasn't at least had a formal interview with an NBA team is kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, well, she did get interviewed by the Toronto Raptors this year.
I heard it wasn't a formal interview, though. I don't know exactly what that entails. If it was like a phone interview, I don't know. But it wasn't like hey, we're going to fly you in. We're going to wine and dine you and try to make an offer. I don't know what exactly it entailed, but I read that it was not a formal interview.
Okay. I didn't know that it wasn't a formal interview. I just know that she was interviewed by them. And I believe she was interviewed in the past, maybe by the Brooklyn Nets. I can't remember who it was, but she's had 2 interviews that I know of for sure. But because she was a finalist for a job either last year or a few years ago. But to me, the bottom line is the fact that she's not in this conversation is an absolute it's ridiculous to me, man.
So another thing, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just post her up, man. Post her up in the chat. Post her up in the chat, man. Like, look, like she's fiery. Her pedigree. She's got a 16-year playing career. She's a 6-time All-Star, man. Like she was undrafted. She went from the bottom of the bench to a 6-time All-Star. She knows what it's like to get it out the mud. If the Pistons bring her in, man, she's gonna have something to prove. She's gonna have that chip that we always talk about. She's gonna have a chip on her shoulder. The players, the NBA players from the San Antonio Spurs, and then obviously the Las Vegas team, they all sign off on her. But it's more importantly, we're talking about the NBA. I saw DeMar DeRozan talking about her, saying that she's an excellent communicator. She's a uniter of people. She's fiery. She knows when she has to, get in your butt. She don't care about male, female, none of that stuff. She's just out there coaching and doing her thing. I think, man, it's going to take somebody special to do something outside of the box. But who was talking about Dan Campbell being our head coach?
Came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere, man. Sometimes you got to do something outside of the box, and you got to take a chance or take a risk on somebody to have something special happen, man. they brought in Patricia, who was supposed to be a rocket scientist and the best thing since sliced bread, bringing in the Patriot way. And you
all
see
he
how
did was wear a stupid pencil in his ear. That's all he ever did.
Yeah, man. So I'm passionate, man. I feel like, I'm not saying that we 100% should just give her the job, but the fact that she's not getting interviewed or talked about is crazy to me.
I'm at least going to send my jet. I'm going to bring you to Detroit. I'm going to take you to a nice restaurant, get you a nice bottle of wine. I'm just going to pick your brain and see if you're a right fit. That's all I'm asking Tom Gores to do. Bring the woman in, talk to her, see what she's got, see what her thoughts are, see which direction she wants to head. If it fits, let's talk some numbers. That's all I'm asking. But what I like is I read an article that an NBA player of a high caliber spoke very highly of her, and it wasn't a player who played for the Spurs. It was Paul Gasol. I said that she should absolutely be a head coach down the road at some point. So bring her in for an interview. That's all we're saying. She doesn't have to walk away with the job, but let's at least show a little interest.
I know they were talking about Dwayne Casey, man, and one of the things that he struggled with a little bit was making adjustments on the fly. And that's something that Greg Popovich is phenomenal with. And that's something that she has been talked about as being really good at. And how'd she get good? She spent a decade under Greg Popovich. Like, imagine the knowledge. I don't know if anybody or how many people know what Greg Popovich does before every game and after the games. He has these dinners where he talks strategy and he talks about the relationships with the guys. Steven Jackson said something about Greg Popovich. Him and his wife had a baby that was not stillborn, but I forget what's it called.
I'm not brain dead. I don't know where you're going. I don't know where you're going with this one. I don't know.
The pregnancy, it had a bad pregnancy.
Miscarriage.
Had a miscarriage. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. So had a miscarriage, and they had to play the day following, and he showed up to the game ready to go. And they stopped him and they said, "Hey, man, you need to go home and be with your wife. Some things are bigger than basketball." You know what I mean? That's the type of guy Greg Popovich was, and that's the type of tutelage she was under. Those guys play so hard for Greg Popovich, and he can yell and scream at them and get in their ass because they know that he loves them and he's got their back 100%. And that's the type of person. So you're telling me she got it out the mud, man. She was at the bottom of the bench, worked her way to the top. She did the same thing when she came into coaching, right? She was at the end of the coaching staff, worked her way all the way up to where when Greg got ejected, who did he call in to be the head coach? And it wasn't a gimmick, right? Because Tim Duncan was on that staff, and he talked about Tim Duncan. He said, "Hey, I don't know if this is for
down
Tim.
the bench, Timmy.
Yeah,
down the bench.
I don't know if this is for him, man." And he's a realist, man. He's not just gonna sign off, on somebody just because they're a female or just because he wants to put on some show or whatever. He's dead serious about what he said. He signed off on her, and if he signed off on her, a Hall of Fame coach, one of the greatest of all times, how isn't she sitting down with Troy Weaver? Make it make sense.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let's say Becky Hammon gets hired.
Yeah.
Will she have the respect of the Pistons locker room, and how will players like Cade Cunningham, Ivy, Duran, young players handle being coached by her?
That's a great question, man. And
by coached, I mean like she's got to chew their asses for something.
I think the bottom line is she's got the pedigree. As when I go into anything in life, if you're trying to explain to me how to be a rocket scientist and you're working at McDonald's, I'm not going to be listening to you. But if you come from being a rocket scientist and your dad was a rocket scientist and your grandpa was a rocket scientist,
you might know what you're talking about.
You might know what you're talking about. So if you played 16 years in the league, if you coached a decade under Pop, if you just won a championship as a rookie head coach, I might want to listen to you and see what you got to say, man. All these players are signing off on her, and with these young guys, I think they'll be more open.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be able to be molded a little bit different than a player like, just throwing a name out there, Kevin Durant, because we talked about him before. Just in my head, I think, Ivy, Cunningham, Duran are a little bit, their brains need to absorb some knowledge. And if she's got it, feed them.
100%, man. 100%. And like I said, I think she's going to come in highly motivated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm just saying, like I said, just bring her in, talk to her.
Give her a look.
Yeah. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for, 20-year head coach. Just just bring her in and see what she's got to offer.
For sure, man. Guys, drop it in the chat. How do you feel about it? Do you think that she would be able to come in and coach in the NBA, or do you think that it for what are your feelings on it? You think it's just not a thing that could happen ever?
Open dialogue.
Yeah, let's have an open dialogue about it. Please be respectful, but because I've talked to a few of my buddies, man, and I won't throw your guys' name out there, but you should be cringing that I'm even mentioning this right now. And they were saying some crazy stuff, man. So I'm interested to see where everybody else is with it, because I think if you're a great coach, I'm not even going to say a good coach. If you're a great coach, because good coaches don't go and just on a fluke win the title in their rookie season. So if you're a great coach, man, you're a great coach, period. That's all that matters.
That's it. Hey, drop some comments, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. We got a public group. We'll talk about it. We have open dialogue with a lot of people on our pages. We keep it friendly and respectful. We don't answer back to any, if you're going to be sexist and closed-minded, you're probably not going to get a response from us. But we'd love to have you on both our channels, our groups. Hit the subscribe button for us, and that is it for tonight.
Hold on. Whoa.
Hey, no. He's not off the hook. He's not off the hook.
Okay.
I was going to say it this time.
Thank you. I was just going to say, get him.
Relax. Hutch. Stay 3. That's all I'm going to say. You haven't responded. We're starting to think that you're ducking us. Yeah. Like, where's Waldo and where's Aiden Hutchinson? 2 people I just can't find anymore.
Yeah, we might have to post, man. Maybe tomorrow we'll post with the evidence.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about. Give us a subscription, guys. We're trying to grow. Help us out, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Peace.